Ah, the beautiful Gerbera daisy. Look at how the petals shimmer in the sunlight. So beautiful, so colorful, and so very much in danger that I am going to inadvertently kill them. Oh, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. This week on the channel, I'm going to do something I have never done before. I'm not a gardener. I have never been a gardener. In fact, when I go to Lowe's or Home Depot, I walk right by the garden section. I don't even notice it's there. But I've decided I'm going to learn a little bit about how growing works, and I'm going to start with these flowers. Will it work? I don't know. If you want to see how this turns out, stay tuned right to the end. But for now, let's get going. So as you know, this is a channel about stuff. I'm a firm believer that if you know a little bit about how your stuff is made, how to repair your stuff, or how to build stuff, you'll just naturally start buying better stuff and less junk. But one kind of stuff that I realized I didn't know much about was a kind of stuff that I buy on a weekly basis. My food. Every house in existence devotes an entire room to the storage and preparation of food. But most of us have no idea where that food comes from or how it's created. I decided a good way to learn about that was to plant a garden. I decided what I would do is make a very simple raised bed galvanized tub garden. These are very popular these days. They're very easy to make. The DIY part of this is super easy. If you've never done a DIY project before and you can use a drill, you can probably do this part. The growing afterwards, it's anybody's guess. I'm going to do my best and I'm going to keep track of the progress over on Instagram. If you want to watch my failure or success, feel free to check it out over at #ReadySteady. But if you just want to see how to make one of these planters, it's really easy. As you can see, it doesn't take a lot of tools. I bought my very first garden trowel. And then of course I have a drill. The drill has a stepped bit on it. We'll go into a little bit more about what that means later. You don't need a stepped bit. Any drill bit that will go through metal will do. But for making holes in thin metal, I usually use a stepped bit. And I'm using potting soil and some galvanized tubs, more on those later. And of course you need something to plant. I decided to start small. Rather than leap right into a garden I could eat, I decided I would just plant a couple of planters with some flowers and see how it goes. I headed off to a couple of local nurseries, had a lot of conversations with some very patient people. We decided that maybe some Gerbera daisies were a good idea. I like the way they look. And the great thing about them, this particular color of Gerbera daisy, this sort of orange color that they come in, is really nice. It's offset by the blue undertones of the galvanized metal. I think it's going to look really great. I'm excited to try this. So the first thing I did was wash out the tubs when I got them. I did that primarily because the store I purchased these at did not do a great job of keeping them clean. I couldn't identify what exactly was inside. I just decided, look, the flowers are going to live in here all year long. If I was one of those flowers, I would want this thing cleaned. You can clean galvanized metal with soap and water, no problem. I'm told it's actually a good idea to wash out your planters at the end of the growing season, or if you happen to be transplanting, so that you don't potentially transmit a disease from an infected plant to the next plant that goes in the planter. So I did that first, and then I proceeded to the next step. Next step, flip the thing over and drill some holes. I chose to drill the holes with my stepped bit. A stepped bit is basically a conical shaped drill bit that has various steps on it of differing widths. As long as the depth of each step exceeds the thickness of the material you need to drill through, you can make a hole of any size just by continuing to drill down to the step that you want to hit. Basically, it can create a 1/8 inch hole, a 3/8 inch hole, a 1/2 inch hole. Whatever steps are on the bit is the size of the hole you're going to make. It's like a lot of drill bits in one. And the great thing about them is that they're designed to go through both metal and wood. They're a little more expensive than other drill bits, but I think it's worth it. I tried 2 approaches with 2 different tubs. I tried using bigger holes, like 5/8 inch in diameter. I found that a little bit too much dirt leaked out. I think a 3/8 inch hole is pretty good, but now I've got both, so I can let you know at the end of the growing season which one worked better for drainage. You want to drill from the bottom up, because that way if you have any little sharp shards, they're going to be pointing into the tub. You don't want them pointing out of the tub and scratching your deck or whatever you put this on. If you want to get rid of those shards, no problem, just grab a file and file them off. So then you might ask yourself, well, wait, shouldn't you put some kind of liner or something in there? A lot of people want to put a layer of stones because they think that that's going to help with drainage. What I found by asking around at the local nurseries is that that's not necessarily so. If you put a layer of stones, thinking that will help with drainage, what you're doing is you're taking the wettest part of the soil, which is the bottom, and that's the part of the soil that the roots aren't going to like. It's too waterlogged, so the roots want to stay above that. If you push that layer of soil up by putting a layer of stones underneath it, you're pushing up the less hospitable environment that the roots would prefer to stay above. And it's not really necessary for drainage. The holes are going to allow the drainage anyway. As long as you put enough holes and they're evenly distributed around the floor of the tub, they're gonna drain anyway. It took 2 bags of earth to fill 1 tub, so then I pulled the plant out of its plastic pot. I broke up the root system a little bit just to encourage it to fan out into the earth I was about to plant into. So really it was just a question of using my trowel to create a hole, and then I planted them. That's it. So I live in Canada, and as you can imagine, spring is kind of a weird time here. This week, it's super hot and super sunny. Next week, I hear there's a chance of frost. Why didn't I check before I planted? Anyway, one of the great things about these planters is they can come in if you get a little bit burned on the frost front. So next week, when the temperatures are hovering around freezing, I think at night I'm just gonna bring them in. Save the plants. All in all, with 2 bags of dirt in there, plus the galvanized tub and the flowers, I'm gonna say they weigh maybe 40, 50 pounds. You can totally move these around. That's a good thing for a beginning gardener. The one mistake a lot of gardeners make is they don't plant their garden in the right spot. Every flower is a little different. You wanna make sure that the flower gets the right amount of shade and sun. By having a portable garden, if you blew it, and you realize your plants aren't exactly loving the position you put them in, you can move your garden. This is a huge advantage to a beginning gardener like myself. You may be asking yourself a couple of questions. The first question most people ask, is that gonna rust? Galvanized steel goes through a process to resist rusting. That doesn't mean it will never rust. That means it's rust resistant. Basically, they take the steel, they dip it in zinc, and the zinc coating protects the steel from corrosion. If the zinc coating becomes compromised somehow, it gets scratched, it gets cut, or there's just really harsh conditions, eventually that coating will wear down. But galvanized steel is used in all kinds of structures that are designed to stay outside almost permanently. Galvanized steel is used in scaffolding. You've probably seen some mailboxes that are made of galvanized steel. They make nails out of galvanized steel. Usually these things don't rust, or if they do, it takes a long time. So yes, eventually your galvanized steel planter will rust, but no, it's not gonna happen quickly, and you're gonna see it start really slow. There are different kinds of galvanizing processes. Some are better than others. But generally speaking, if you buy a big tub like this, which is designed for animal feed or watering, pretty good bet it's not gonna rust quick. Second question a lot of people have about galvanized gardening, isn't the galvanized tub gonna get super hot and scorch the roots of the plant? This was a question I had. I didn't know. I asked around, I've read a lot. It seems like people use galvanized planters in really, really hot climates, and it doesn't seem to matter. In fact, for my climate here in Canada, the galvanized steel actually helps. It does absorb a little bit of heat and sunshine over the course of the day, which helps to warm the earth, and over a cold night, kind of regulates the temperature a little bit. I'll tell you at the end of the growing season how things turn out, but from what I understand, probably it's safe. It's not going to scorch the roots of the plant. In fact, where I live, it might actually help. And I guess what anybody wants to know, especially if they plan on growing food in their galvanized planter one day, is galvanized metal safe to grow food in? From what I have read, from asking at 2 nurseries in my city, it seems like it's safe. Galvanized metal is coated in zinc, and zinc appears in earth naturally. Human beings and animals do ingest zinc, and so many people are growing vegetables in galvanized steel planters, I feel like this is safe. And obviously it doesn't get used for cooking utensils. You shouldn't cook on it. There are a lot of opinions about this, but to me, I feel like this is gonna work. As I say, I'm gonna keep track of my progress over on Instagram. Check it out, #ReadySteady. If the flowers die, that's where you'll see. And if I do well, that's where you're gonna see too. So there you go. If you're anything like me and you didn't know anything about gardening, I hope this has inspired you to learn maybe a little. I'll let you know how it turns out for me. I'm not sure, but I'm reasonably optimistic. If the flowers work out, next year I'm growing some food. Please check out the progress of these flowers over on Instagram. That's #ReadySteady. And if there's any way you could like or subscribe to this YouTube channel, that would be awesome. Subscribe button's right below. Hit the bell for notifications. But even if you don't do that, feel free to leave a comment. Obviously, I'm a beginning gardener, and I bet some of you are seasoned pros, so if you've got some tips, some ideas, or some thoughts, I'd like to hear them. So anyway, until next Saturday, happy spring, take care of yourself, be safe with your DIY projects, and I'll catch you next Saturday.